Dominic says, okay. Ashkan says, how to know if someone is your soulmate? Well, you haven't, I mean, one, not you, but one hasn't even spent enough time with oneself to exactly know how we tick. And yet, everybody expects to find their soulmate. Let's first find out, what is it that we are all about? How are we put together? What is our consciousness means? What are our thoughts coming from? How do they form? How do we deal with our fears, desires, and ego? When we understand all this, then we begin to understand how the other person is put together, because it's put together in similar ways, and then yet different. Why? Because the content of the consciousness is formed through the interactions and the things that we've been exposed to and seen and been treated with, the religion we come from, the background, the traditions, the customs, the teachers we experienced, the classroom, the books, the news, the things that we read, the things that we saw, the siblings, the parents, and the culture, and all these taboos, the dogmas, and everything else that has created the content of our consciousness, which our thoughts comes from it, from the field of the known. This field of the consciousness is where every thought that we have is actually generated and born from it. And when we know how this happens in us, and what are the forces at work that have created this, how we are, then we begin to understand what are the ways to try to find something more compatible to ourselves based on the consciousness level and the content of their consciousness, and then see how it is compatible with us, and perhaps that would have a better chance to be called a soulmate. Otherwise, it's not a magical thing. Oh, that's my soulmate. Why? Because I love her so much. Well, you're programmed for procreation. You love anything that is to your standards and seems beautiful to you, and that is not supposed to mean that she's your soulmate. It's your program for procreation, your attraction, and your infatuation, and that's how we're built. But that doesn't mean that it's so. Why? Because a few years later, a few months later, you see that it didn't work out. You guys broke up. Why? Because the soulmate is not just the physical attraction that you think, I'm infatuated, so that's my soulmate. Oh, she agrees with everything I say. Oh, she understands everything I say. These are good, but not necessarily a complete way that you will have a better chance to call it a soulmate. Is only when you bond on consciousness level and you guys work things together and create an order which is mutually acceptable and workable. Because as you know, when you're single, you have a different order. When you are in a relationship, your order interferes with the order of the other person, and the other person's order interferes with your order. And therefore, it takes a while for you guys to actually combine the two orders and come to a compromise and a certain way of routine and doing things in life. And that becomes the harmonized order. And when you break up, that order is now your order. It breaks up, and then you go back and see differences between what it was, and again, a new order that you need to establish. And these are what things you go through. And if you understand all that, then you'll be able to be more capable on picking out the right partner, and hopefully then you can work toward making each other's soulmate.